This is a review of the Vevor 5000 BTU heaters. These are kind of on the smaller side, but a review nonetheless. Currently, it is 12 degrees outside with a real feel of 5 degrees. My garage is not insulated, and when I came out here earlier, it was only about 20, I think it was 26, 28 degrees in the garage when I first came out here. These heaters have been running for about 2 hours, and over where I would work, it's about 41 degrees over there. So not a big incremental increase right now. But what I've noticed is these heaters do great when it's in the mid to high 20s. But once it drops below that, they just can't offset the temperatures. Maybe if I left them run all night, they could make some progress. But just in the 2 hours, raising it that many degrees is about all I've gotten. And that is the farther corner of the shop. Like over here, I'm sure, like sitting right where I'm at, it's 50 degrees. So and then, I'm sure if you guys can read that, but it's 195 degrees. He's put out some really hot air, okay? I think I've read reviews. Many people said these things just didn't work very well. When you're dropping into the low 20s or below that, I think any heater's going to have a hard time when the garage is not insulated, okay? So, I run 2 of them, as you can see. I think it's about air volume, and some of the other smaller shop videos that I've seen where they say they still don't do a great job is, I think it's about air volume. Because once it gets into, you know, the high 20s or 30s, I can get the shop temp up to 50, even 60 degrees, which is, I know some people would say that's still cold, but that's very warm when you consider the temperature outside. And it's definitely way better than the alternative of working in an unheated garage. I've only have these set on a heat setting of 4. I believe they go all the way up to 6. So yeah, they go all the way up to 6. My experience tells me never to set it at a 6 because these do they overheat, I guess, and they have an automatic safety switch and they turn themselves off. So keep that in mind. I would say run it at a 4 or a 5. If it's like 30 degrees or 35 degrees, I'll usually set these up at like a 1 or 2, and I'll start it before I go to bed at night if I know I have a project the next morning that I'm going to be in here for, not just an oil change, but I'm going to be in here for several hours. Then I'll set it up differently and let it run all night, and it kind of warms everything else up with it and makes it easier to sustain that temperature. And then once I get up in the morning, I'll come out and I'll kick it up to a 3 or a 4, and then go make my breakfast and everything, and then come out here. And this garage has always been very, very comfortable to work in. I do recommend them. I do think that if you really want to see great results, I think it's about air volume, and I think you need 2 of them. You could go with the higher BTU ones. I wish I would have done the 8s, or like I think that now the 10s are out. I wish I would have done those, but I didn't. I'd be curious to see the performance difference between the 5s and the 8s as far as temperature goes, or if it's just to get more air volume out. But yeah, the only issue I've ever had with these things is if you set them at a 6, which is what I did at the beginning. they would auto kick off after a while because I believe they're overheating it. If I remember right, it's like an E08 code or something like that. When you looked it up in the book, it was an overheat code. So I just don't run it on a 6. I run it usually on a 4. That's usually what I run it at if I'm running it that high. But I usually, like I said, if I know I'm going to be working on a project long term in here, like a bigger job, like a timing belt or something in the house, or in the garage, I will come out and set these up the night before and set them on a 2, and let it kind of warm everything else up in the garage, and then turn on the heat whenever I get up in the morning. It is really cold. The real feel is like 5 degrees right now. And like I said, temps outside are 12 degrees. So it's really, really cold right now. So the fact that it's even got it, I don't remember what they said earlier. I'll do my work area. So yeah, 40 degrees. Try and get it to where you can see it. From 12 to 40. And like I said, 26 degrees I think is what it was when I temped this place earlier in there. Obviously closer to my garage door that's not insulated either. That's 38 degrees coming off there. Oh, sorry. I'm trying to give you guys real temps. That's why I brought this up. They're very, very fuel efficient compared to doing propane. I used to have one of those big like 60 to, or was it 40 to 60,000 BTU propane heater, and it could get this garage up to temp, but I also had to run my carbon monoxide detector all the time and truly pay attention in here, and this thing was always going off, and it was a great nuisance. Plus it was really, really, really loud. I haven't done any of the modifications people talk about on these to make them quieter. I don't think they're that loud. I think they're perfectly fine. I have mine vented outside, and I have insulation inside of the house. You can see they kind of heated up the insulation a little bit where it sits into it because it's a vinyl, and it's kind of just softened it a little bit and it left an imprint, but nothing's burnt. You can see around there, nothing's burnt. So they've held up really well, and like I said, they don't use hardly any fuel. They're great little heaters. I find, especially when it's above 30 degrees, you turn these on and get it going, and overnight these will use almost a tank of fuel setting on a 2, and then I come out here, top them off, and then get ready for the rest of my day. And when I do need to tinker out here, it makes it way more comfortable to work out here in the garage. But I haven't had any issues with them. Outside the setting on heat level 6 does cause them to overheat occasionally and turn off, so I just don't use that setting anymore. But outside that, I've never had an issue with them. They have worked flawlessly. I did purchase these little inverters here from 120 volt to the 12 volt that these run off of, and then they're just wired into a car adapter, and I found that to be the easiest, quickest way. And then if I ever want to use them in a vehicle or something when I'm traveling, if I choose to go that route, they're set up for a car charger already. So yeah. Would I buy again? Yes. Would I probably buy something bigger? Yes, absolutely. I would definitely look into the air volume capabilities of these. I do have an old cast iron stove or heater I just bought, radiator heater. I hope to put a video out about that here soon. I'm working on getting adapters to reduce it down to the same pipe size as this, so that it will all be together. And then I'm going to move this one that way, might go this way. I think I'm gonna go that way, and then run that heater across there, and the exhaust will basically run through the cast iron heater, heating that up, which is the exhaust gases, creating a little extra warmth in the shop, and something that'll be a little more effective. I've heard that doing that is extremely effective, and it increases your heat output dramatically. So super excited to try that, and I hope to put that out here this winter, as money permits and time permits. So I hope you guys found this review helpful. Yet again, on a 2 setting, I run these all night. I don't run out of fuel. They're still running when I get up in the morning. Never had an issue with them. They work great. They do come with the little remotes. I've never used the remotes. I just come and turn them on and walk away. So very fuel efficient. Haven't had any issues with the way I set it up for carbon monoxide, which is really nice. And I have noticed that my tools do not rust like the turbo heater would. That's a big deal to me. I got tired of all my sockets and everything rusting and getting, because all the moisture and condensation, being with these exhaust outside, that's also another huge benefit of these products. So big recommend. If I were to buy them again, to be completely candid, I would buy the 8s or the 10s, but I'd still go with 2, because I really believe it's an air volume issue that some of the other videos you're going to watch, where they're like, they put out great heat, but it's just not enough for my area. I have a 2-car garage here, and I really truly believe that air volume is what hinders some of the other people that have the larger units and say they're still not good enough for their garage. So until next time, guys, I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, leave a like, subscribe. We'll see what else we can come up with.